Hello and welcome to another Lightroom editing video. Today I'm gonna take this raw file of Paris, France and turn it into something like this. Now I actually have no idea how this picture is gonna look like, but I've really liked this picture. It has so much detail, so much mood of the actual city of Paris. It has a lot of people, which kind of captures the busyness. You have these beautiful lanterns, these plates of the restaurants, the beautiful architecture, and some additional birds for additional interest. Now to settings, I've shot this at ISO 800, so there is a little bit of noise, but I really had to use ISO 800 because it was kind of dark there. And I really don't mind the noise as much in a street photo as I would, for example, in a landscape. Then 48mm, f5.6, I had to use a pretty wide aperture because there wasn't much light, but I still think I managed to get everything pretty good in focus, and a 1/160th of a second shutter speed. Now it's maybe a little bit too much, but I really didn't want to end up with a shaky picture, so that's why I've chosen 1/160th of a second. So let's get straight into editing. I'm definitely gonna raise the shadows here. Suddenly so much detail come out of the shadows to the highlights. I think I'm gonna bring down the highlights, even though it doesn't look good right now. I'm gonna fix that later with the whites here. Actually, let me fix that right now by bringing up the whites. Now usually I would make sure that nothing is clipped, and as you can see, a little bit of the picture is clipped, mainly just up here, but I actually don't mind that. I'd rather have something clipped in a picture rather than everything kind of flat and dark. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick there, then to the blacks. Let me see. I really don't think I'm gonna go down with the blacks as I usually do. I think I might even bring them up a bit so we get even more details in the shadows. Then contrast. This is a tough one. I think I'm gonna leave contrast at around 0 for now. And maybe, let's see, with the color temperature, I definitely want to make this a little bit warmer. As you can see, it's kind of bluish right here. I'm not sure if I want to add as much orange as I want to have in the final picture, because I want to add some orange later in the split toning tool, just to kind of give a different orange tone, and just in some parts of the image, so to say. But for now, I'm definitely gonna add a little bit of warmth. 6500 works pretty well for here. Here's before and here's after, so the whole scene gets a little bit more warm, a little bit more alive even. Then tint, I think tint is really fine. Yeah, I'm just gonna reset that and leave it where it was. And clarity, now I definitely do think I want to add some clarity. As you can see, it almost looks a little bit like an HDR image, which I don't mind that much for this kind of scene, for the street photo here, but I don't want to overdo it to make it look something like this. As you can see, for example, these reds right here completely look unnatural. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of clarity, 30, 35, something like this. Then vibrance. Now, vibrance. Let's see if I want to add any color. I think because this is a raw file and we haven't added any contrast, a bit of plus vibrance could work here. Yeah, just to give a little bit more pop. Something like plus 29. And to the tonal curve, as always, bringing up the highlights to kind of create some more dynamic, especially here in the sky. Here's at 0 and here's at around plus 40. I'm not gonna do this as much as I would in some of my landscape pictures, but I really think plus 40 works well here. Then to the rest of the tonal curve sliders, just gonna play around with these and stick with whatever looks best. Maybe bringing up the lights a bit. The darks. I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit plus with the darks. And shadows. I think shadows is good where they were. So HSL tool, you could fine tune the color here by just grabbing this little pinpointer, drag it over the color, and moving the mouse button up and down with the hue, saturation, and luminance tool separately. But that really doesn't have that big of an impact in a picture, especially if you don't have that many colors. For example, if you have a full landscape with a lot of trees and colorful leaves, that might have a big impact, but for this kind of picture it really doesn't. It will have some, but it's not really necessary, so I'm rather gonna save me some time there. And split toning, this is what I was talking about. I feel like I'm gonna add a little bit of orange in the highlights here, just to make the overall picture a little bit warmer and look like it was shot at sunset. I'm not quite sure which kind of orange I want to choose, maybe more towards the yellows. Of course, this is way too much. I'm just checking the exact color right now, not the saturation of it. Yeah, I think somewhere around there, really in the middle between orange and yellows. And then I'm gonna bring down the saturation again. Here's at 0. So let's just fine tune how much saturation of these orange tones I want to add. Maybe around 40, so nothing too wild, but it definitely helps to give a little bit more warmth into the picture. And then with shadows, doing the same thing. I'm not quite sure if I want to add shadows at all. Maybe that's gonna be a little bit too much here for this picture, but I'm still gonna try with a pretty low saturation. Here's at 0. Here's with a little bit. Maybe just like 7%, so nowhere near the 40% of the highlight slider. Really just a little bit more, otherwise it would be too much yellows and too much oranges into the picture. Then the detail tool, zooming in 1:1, and just kinda checking. There's really a lot of noise now because we've raised the shadows so much at ISO 800. So I think first of all I'm gonna add some noise reduction. Even though I don't like the tool, it really is necessary if you have that amount of noise in your picture. So let me see here. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more, 40, something like this. And sharpening, definitely gonna add some sharpening to get a little bit more sharpness, of course, that's what the sharpening slider is for. But I'm gonna add a little bit more than usual because I wanna kind of sharpen out some of the detail that we've lost through the noise reduction. So I think I'm gonna stick around 70 here, which is more than I would usually sharpen a picture. Then bringing down the masking slider to the right. This actually looks like a really cool picture in itself. Almost like some abstract painting. Anyways, you want to make sure that you don't select too much of any non-textured parts of the image, like for example this red here or the sky. This will just introduce noise, so you want to make sure that you bring the masking slider to the right. This looks pretty good, and as you've seen before, there's a lot of color noise in the picture as well. Now the color noise slider is really a tool that I really love. It has so much impact while not doing much harm to the picture at all. So I'm gonna bring that to the right until I don't see any color noise anymore in the picture. Just look at that guy's jeans here. Here's at default, and here's at around 86. It just all suddenly disappears. And this slider really can make a huge impact to your picture if you print it or display it on large monitors. It makes it look so much cleaner. Then let's see, lens corrections. Enable profile corrections, choosing your lens so you get rid of all of the vignetting and distortion. As you know, vignetting is really an optional part, but I actually think I'm gonna get vignetting down to 0. It's really just the distortion I want to get rid of. Then color, remove chromatic aberration, and we're already done with that tool. So I think the picture is slightly crooked, so let me just try to fix the horizon here. Just a little bit to the right. It's really nothing wild, but I think it looks a bit better that way. yeah. Then let's see, effects tools. Here you can add additional vignetting, and I'm really not sure if I want to do that for this picture. Actually, I think it works a bit. Maybe even bring the midpoints more towards the center and just add a little bit. Nothing wild, nothing like that, but just like -10. Here's at 0 and here's at -10. It really just helps to give a little bit more attention towards the center of the image, which is a phrase that I've probably used way too much in my past videos. But anyhow, let's go to the last global adjustment of this picture, which is the camera calibration profile. Just play around with the profiles. This will change the color and kind of highlight to darkness ratio. I kind of like this one. This really makes the whole picture pop very much. Let's try the others regardless though. Camera portrait doesn't look bad either, but maybe a little bit too reddish. Camera standard doesn't really have much change to camera portrait. Here's what we've started at, and I really don't like this that much anymore compared to the other profiles. Let's see, camera landscape is very saturated, but I really think it works very well for this picture. It's really not much that I'm gonna use camera landscape, but here it really works the best. So I'm gonna stick there, and these other sliders, now they won't have that much impact to your picture, definitely more than the HSL tool. But if you have the time, and especially if you're still learning, be sure to play around with these sliders just so you see what they do. If you have a very colorful landscape picture of fall foliage, for example, you will see a very dramatic difference compared to a picture like this, which doesn't have that much color in it. Just because I kind of want to keep this video a little bit shorter than some of my other super in-depth tutorials, which are like 40 minutes. I'm not gonna play around with these sliders at all, because once again they really don't have that big of an impact in a picture like this. So we're already done with the global adjustments, so now we're in the local adjustments, and let me just think, what do I want to do here beside dodge and burning, which is definitely a thing that I want to add. Let me just try the old tricks with the graduated filter, just dragging it over the very top part of the image right here, something like this, and bringing down the exposure. I'm really not sure if this works for this picture. Usually I like this because it helps to kind of close out the image, but I really don't think it works that well for this kind of picture, this street photo right here. Let me try the same at the bottom though. Maybe even make this a little bit larger towards the bottom with a very soft edge. And I do think that works actually, because it's some additional vignetting. It helps to give more attention towards the center, maybe even introduce some plus clarity so we have the whole picture a little bit sharper in the foreground. And yeah, I do like this. I really don't think I want to add anything else than dodge and burning anymore. Now, dodge and burning 4-up, it will have a huge impact into this picture. I'm definitely gonna add a lot of it here. Dodge and burning is just making individual parts of the image brighter or darker. I usually use the radial filter for that, but you could use the adjustment brush as well. If you would like to use the radial filter, just make sure the feather is to 100, you invert the mask, and then you're gonna add some plus exposure or negative exposure to the image. And then you just want to add some radial filters over parts of the image and introduce some more play of light and shadow, add a bit more complexity to your image. And I 4-up can say this picture will look very different once I add these. It really depends on your picture. If you have a very flat picture, you really can add a lot of dynamic to your picture. If you already have like a sunset with a lot of lights and shadows, it might have a little bit of lesser impact, but dodge and burning definitely is a tool that I love and that I add in most of my pictures. So if you wanna do that, just add some radial filters to the parts where it kinda looks boring to you, and I really can see a lot of here. For example, these chairs are kind of boring, kind of flat. There's a lot of parts of these houses, yeah, and even the street itself. So enough of me talking, I'm gonna speed up the footage and add some dodge and burning, so see you in a second. So I'm back after adding a ton of radial filters. Here you can see every little dot is a radial filter. Probably about 50 minutes. This is the most time I've ever spent on adding dodge and burning, but this really is a picture where dodge and burning can make worlds of difference. So as you can see, here is before and here's after. Incredible difference, and the main thing that you probably will notice is that I've turned on these lanterns right here, and that's really a cool thing that you can do with dodge and burning as well, is just to make lanterns or other lamps turn on. Now I'm probably gonna make a video in the future in detail about how you can do it, but I really love this image, and I feel like these lanterns turned on work a lot better for the photo. Here's without dodge and burning, and here's with. Of course, I have added some additional dodge and burning as well, for example at these houses, at this house right here, with those people, and a little bit on this cafe right here. Once again, without and with. Definitely makes the picture feel way more alive than before. And after this dodge and burning, I really don't think I'm gonna make any additional adjustments. I feel the picture looks great how it is. As always, let's see where we started at with the raw file. Here is the raw file. Really extremely different. Way colder. The white balance isn't right at all. There's no light, no interest. And here's what I've made out of it. Now these lanterns may seem a little bit obvious at first, but once you get used to the picture, it really seems pretty natural. So as always, thank you very much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this, like or dislike the video accordingly, and have a beautiful day.